So Greta Thunberg, the Swedish climate activist, was awarded Time Magazine's Person of the Year, and then, of course, Donald Trump had to tweet about this. This is what he said: "So ridiculous. Greta must work on her anger management problem. Then go to a good old-fashioned movie with a friend. Chill, Greta. Chill." So it's obviously he's a little jealous of the Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg, who I believe is 16 years old, winning this award from Time magazine and saying that she needs to work on her anger management problem, which is very funny coming from Donald Trump, who seems to go on these very angry tirades against all kinds of different groups of people and individuals in particular, almost on a daily basis, whether that's on Twitter or through different interviews he gives to the media. So I find that very rich. And then also, from my perspective, it doesn't seem like Greta Thunberg has any type of anger problem. She's just very passionate about climate change, as we all should be, and she's just leading by example with that, because if we don't take climate change seriously, then sooner rather than later we won't have a inhabitable planet to live on. So even if she was angry about that, she would have a right to be that way, because the older generations, the generations that have come before her, have basically, destroyed the world to a large extent, and she's fighting to do something about that. And she has helped, along with a lot of other climate youth activists, help to spark this huge, movement, getting out in the streets, protesting these school climate strikes. She helped kind of spearhead that movement, started in Sweden, and now it's all over, the world. These children are, fighting and advocating for their futures and for all of our futures, really. So she was angry, about what's happening to the planet. She should be. We all should be. And this is coming from a president who has, deregulated things like, the EPA to a large extent, as well as, appointing, people to heads of administration who are former lobbyists for those same companies that they are now supposed to be, making sure they're in compliance with these different environmental regulations. He doesn't really take climate change seriously at all. He, advocates for, more oil production, more drilling, more fracking, opening up, different, kind of national parks or public lands to, mining and these other resource, extraction industries. So, yeah, it's very interesting that coming from Trump. So instead of criticizing her, what he should be doing is instead he should be out there using his power and position of influence as, POTUS, to fight for things like a Green New Deal. But of course, he isn't, because, he doesn't, I guess, believe in climate change, which, is very ridiculous, because all of the science shows that it's, indeed, in fact, happening, with these, higher rates of these extreme hurricanes, extreme drought, extreme wildfire, tropical storms, all of these, different things are happening, and we can measure it through time, reduce snowpack, all of these, different things we've been able to track, and the scientific consensus is clear. Climate change is real, and it's a very extreme threat. And I think it was a report from the UN that basically said that we have until, came out in 2018, we have until 2030, 12 years to make some very drastic changes to how we are living on and treating this planet before I think we basically reach a tipping point where we can't go back from. And if we haven't made those shifts by that point, then it's just all of a kind of spiral downhill from there, is basically kind of my the gist of it, at least from what I remember. So it's just another example to show how petty like Donald Trump really is. Like this teenager from Sweden who decided to take a stand and sit outside of, I think, Swedish Parliament on Fridays, to protest their inaction on climate change, and then it just grew from there. And then now it's a global, movement. And obviously, she's just a small part of that, but definitely a good representation of what a committed individual can achieve. And now we see these wide-ranging protests from children and all parts of the world, and she was kind of helped get that started. And it's also interesting too because Melania Trump, Donald Trump's wife, has this anti-bullying kind of campaign online where she doesn't want minors, I guess, to be attacked. Yeah, so there's some anti-bullying hypocrisy on Melania's part because they're one of the people who testified during the impeachment hearing, I guess, made some type of reference to Barron Trump, her and Donald Trump's child, during one of the impeachment hearings, but then she was silent when Donald Trump, wrote this demeaning and condescending tweet directed towards Greta Thunberg. And then the White House press secretary released this statement, which said, "Be Best is a First Lady's initiative, and she will continue to use it to do all she can to help children. It's no secret that the president and First Lady often communicate differently, as most married couples do. Their son is not an activist who travels the globe giving speeches. He is a 13-year-old who wants and deserves privacy." Well, that seems a bit hypocritical and a bit of a double standard there on Melania's part, because the president is still going after a child online because he was jealous they got an award and she didn't. And of course, when anybody gets attention and it's not Donald Trump, he takes that very personally and wants to attack that person so he can get that attention. And I don't know, just total double standard. And honestly, I wouldn't really expect anything else from the Trump administration. And this is just another example of Trump's buffoonery. And again, we need to do everything that we can to get Bernie elected, because he's the only one who's going to fight for things like a Green New Deal to help combat climate change, a huge existential threat to the human race. And then here we have Donald Trump mocking this Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg, somebody who's actually, making a huge, difference in the world with regards to climate change. So we see, the juxtaposition there. Vote Bernie, not meet us.